Hello, my name's Olurotimi Osha. Today is August the 22nd, 2026. I'm shifting gears now and I'm going to be talking a little bit on career guidance. I'm trying to provide career guidance to a mentee, a younger person who's interested in going to law school and wants to go to an Ivy League. So, um, and this person's expressed their desire to clerk, right? To clerk for a federal judge, right? Uh, be like Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, or so that is good. And then law school, understand, is the most exclusive profession in America. Now, when I say it's the most exclusive or the most elitist, it is certainly the most elitist and it's the most exclusive profession in America. I'm not saying that they're the smartest people. By no means, I'm not saying that. They can't do math, right? They fear math, right? If you fear math so much, you shouldn't call yourself. Well, let's say Albert Einstein was a very smart person. He was a physicist and he not a lawyer, right? Mariah Curie was a chemist, very smart woman, not a lawyer, and both of them were Nobel Prize laureates, right? Of course, there are multiple intelligences, but I'm not even going to get into that now. But law is very exclusive in America and it's very elitist. If you are interested in getting into law, then you want to go into you want to try your best to get into, well, if you're, it depends, right? On what you want to do after law school. If you're saying you want to be a clerk for a federal judge, then you want to go into the most exclusive law schools. Now, I graduated from law school. I have a Juris Doctor from George Washington University Law School, but by no means did I go to an exclusive law school. George Washington University is not an exclusive law school. It's a respectable law school. It's a top tier law school, but it's not a hyper exclusive law school like Yale Law School, right? Or a Harvard, or Stanford. It's not a hyper exclusive law school. The acceptance rate of like Yale is 4%, right? So if you want to be a law clerk, there's a very tight, narrow path that law schools have carved, right? They've designed a very narrow path towards to go from that trajectory from law school to a law clerk to a federal judge or a Supreme Court justice, which is the most elite, right? And if you want to go into big law, then to big law. Big law are the most exclusive, the biggest, most prestigious law firms in America. They're called, so they're the most, equivalent. Sometimes they call them white shoe firms, but big law. They include Wachtel, which is routinely ranked #1 most prestigious law firm in America. There's Cravath, there's Sullivan and Cromwell, there's Davis Polk, there's Cleary, right? There's Skadden Arps. So those are exclusive law firms. Their starting salaries for fresh law school graduates in their first year, the base salaries ranges from $225,000 to $250,000. So for a fresh law school graduate who has no experience, that's their base salary. Now, so I'm titling this is the elitism of Yale and Harvard. Does it pay? Now, if you consider that people who do have federal clerkships, or if they were clerks to Supreme Court justices, because there's a term limit, right? You can't be a clerk forever. So law clerks haven't passed the bar typically, right? They just graduated, they haven't yet taken the bar. And by the time they take the bar, they're not required to have the bar, by the way. So by the time they complete, law clerkships, they have a term limit of 1 to 2 years. If you're lucky, maybe 3 years tops, 1 to 3 years, right? So that's the term limit for you to be a clerk to a federal judge or a Supreme Court justice. And after that, you transition to being an attorney, a practicing attorney. Many times, big law firms want you because of your exposure to the thinking of a federal judge or a Supreme Court justice, and they'll pay bonuses of say $50,000 to $150,000. That's on top of the $250,000 they pay their first-year law school graduates, right? So we're looking at $500,000 by the time you complete your law clerkship, right? Your $400,000 to $500,000. By the time you complete your clerkships to a judge or a Supreme Court justice, and you're starting off in your first year at a big law firm. Of course, they give you seniority as well. So, but it's not for everybody who has a JD, who has a law degree, right? It's exclusive, right? It's for those people who went to the elite, not just the T14, because we are seeing the T14 is now volatile, is now flexible, right? Even Georgetown, for the first time in a long time, has been pushed out of the T14. I think it's ranked 18th on U.S. News, U.S. News law school rankings for 2026, right? So it's shifted a bit, right? But those schools like the Yale, those schools in the top five, and that's volatile as well. But there's certain schools, like for instance, when I said top five, even Harvard Law School has been pushed out of the top five. It's ranked sixth right now in the law school rankings, U.S. News law school rankings. It's the 2026 ranking places Harvard at number 6, right? Of course, there's Yale. Yale's number 2 right now. Chicago Law is number 2. And Stanford is number 1, I think. And then there's Columbia Law School. I think it's ranked lower. It's moved to number 9. But you see, there's certain law schools, those Ivy Leagues that have a law degree program, they're exclusive. They're those schools that are elite. They belong in that club. So exclusivist, being elite, right? Exclusive is the hyper exclusiveness of these law schools, right? In America, it's about you doing anything to get in, right? For instance, I'd say I'm the sort of person who, when I wanted to go to law school, by the way, I was waitlisted in. I wasn't admitted, but if I'd been admitted, I'd go. But I was waitlisted in top 2 law schools, right? That are ranked like in the top 2, right? Exclusive law schools. And I was even invited for an interview, and they told me what I needed to do to get in. But I'm the sort of person, the school that took me, that gave me a scholarship right away, I chose to go to that school, right? Because I'm the sort of person who, my philosophy was go where you're valued, where they show they want you most, where they want you, where they seem to need you. So that was my philosophy, right? I wouldn't say if it works for everybody, but that's not what the exclusive or elitist philosophy is about. The exclusive philosophy is the more they show you they don't want you, right? The more you beg to be, you do anything to get in, right? So you're hyper competitive, you do anything to get in. It's not just about being smart, right? You see a lot of smart people who go to non-exclusive law schools because they don't want the hyper competitiveness, or they don't want to grovel. They want to be treated different, right? Not that that's part of being exclusive, right? So it does pay off, right? When you when it translates into the numbers, right? By the way, the fact that you don't go to an Ivy League or an elite law school, right? These top T14, top tier law schools, a Yale or Harvard or Columbia or Stanford, it doesn't mean you won't be successful as a lawyer, right? There are many lawyers who are, are very famous, make truckloads of money, who didn't go to these elite law schools, right? Because it makes them work harder. In fact, when you go to these exclusive elite law schools, you don't push yourself anymore. You don't think you need to prove yourself. So they become complacent, because from the point that you're there, these law schools, Stanford, Yale, Harvard, they don't even grade their students. They don't compare their students anymore. You're in, it's pass fail, that's it, right? So by the time you're in, they treat them special. They give them this special treatment. The elite, the exclusive, right? There's that sense of entitlement. So they don't prove themselves. So it tells why they're not, they're people who come from lower tier law schools who outperform them. But the thing is, being exclusive is about belonging to a club, and that club controls a lot of power, a lot of money, a lot of wealth, and that's just the way things are. Now, it's rather ironic, because if you look at our history, law school didn't exist until, I think, the late 19th century and then early 20th century in America, right? Previously, our founding fathers who wanted to be lawyers, they read law as apprentices, right, to a barrister, a lawyer, an attorney in their law firm, right? That's how they did it then. Abraham Lincoln hardly went to school. He qualified as an attorney, right? So things changed. Our longest serving Chief Justice, John Marshall, right, who was cousin to Thomas Jefferson, another lawyer, right? John Marshall hardly saw the four walls of a school. He didn't graduate from college. He read law, but you see, he went on to become Supreme Court Justice. Now, things changed over time. I think our second president created the snobbery, the elitism of the Ivy Leagues. That's John Adams, right? John Adams is the first president to have gone to Harvard University. There wasn't a Harvard Law School then. He read law. He became a lawyer. He was a lawyer. Brilliant lawyer. But I've read David McCullough's John Adams, and you see in his journals, in his personal writing, his excerpts from his journals, you see John Adams was elitist. In fact, he was a snob. Even though his father wasn't a wealthy man, middle class, but he was a snob. He valued that he went to Harvard, and so you can see Harvard already started creating that snobbery at a very early, from its beginnings, right? From its early beginnings. There was a time John Adams seemed to snob the great Benjamin Franklin, who didn't have hardly had a school education, right? But he became a genius, right? With his experiments on lightning and things like that. And he was an inventor, prolific inventor. And of course, he was a very successful businessman. He was a wealthy man. And Benjamin Franklin, who went on to become president of Pennsylvania, instead of being, they weren't called governors then. He was the president of Pennsylvania, a founding father. He also received an honorary doctorate from Oxford University in civil law, right? So snobbery got into law, right? Lawyers became snobs in America, became very elitist, and you can see from the composition of the Supreme Court justices, right? Today, we have 9 Supreme Court justices, right? 9 of them, with the exception of Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who got her law degree from University of Notre Dame Law School, which is ranked like number 20th right now. It's a respectable top tier law school, but it's not a hyper exclusive law school, right? Like the others, the other 8, right? They're divided half. Half 4 graduated from Harvard Law School, 4 graduated from Yale Law School. So the 4 from Harvard Law, I think they include people like Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, Elena Kagan. Who else is on the Supreme Court? Neil Gorsuch and Elena Kagan, Neil Gorsuch. Who else is on the Supreme Court? Well, I can't. But there are four of them. Sorry, Chief Justice John Roberts himself, right? So 4 of them from Harvard. The other 4, apart from Amy Coney Barrett, who completes it as the 9th person. There are 4 from Yale. Those from Yale include Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, Sonia Sotomayor, and Brett Kavanaugh. So you can see 4 are from Yale, 4 are from Harvard, right? And just 1 from University of Notre Dame Law School. And if we look at the overall composition of all the Supreme Court justice from our history, from our founding, Harvard leads the pack, right? 22 Harvard Law alum, 18 graduated from, were graduates, right? Because many sometimes, so back then, people would attend and not graduate. So 18 graduates from Harvard Law School, from Harvard, right? And the Supreme Court justice, right? And all justices in the history of the U.S. Supreme Court justice. Then the next is Yale. Yale has about nine people graduated from Yale, right? That became Supreme Court justices. And then the third is Columbia Law School. Columbia, 7 alum, but 4 graduates, right? And then there are other schools, right? Many other schools that were not consequential, that were not elite, that were not prestigious, right? Albany Law School, University of Alabama. I think Hugo Black went to University of Alabama. Thurgood Marshall graduated from Howard University Law School, right? Howard University Law School is, it's not even it's not ranked in the top 100, right? It's a prestigious, historically black college, though, and it's a very solid law school, but it's clearly not hyper exclusive, right? And so people from University of Michigan Law School, people from different law schools that don't even exist anymore, that are obsolete, that are defunct, right? So as I said, John Marshall, our longest serving Chief Justice, and famous for Marbury versus Madison, or Madison versus Marbury, he didn't go to any law school. He didn't even go to any college, right? But law became very elitist. But if you want to go that path, if you want to be a federal law clerk for a Supreme Court justice, then you want to get into those schools, right? They're hyper exclusive, hyper competitive. All you can do is get a no, right? You can get a no, but you try and distinguish yourself and try and get in. They offer tremendous opportunities. Now, can you have a very successful career even without going to these extra hyper exclusive law schools? That's Harvard, Yale, and whatnot. Yes, right? It depends on you, and you define what success is for you, right? But those fields like the Supreme Court justices, those fields that professions, like big law, they've defined what they want, that they're elite, they're exclusive, and this is what they want. You can't change their composition, but you can define what is success for you and the trajectory, the path you're going to take to achieve your success. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'll do more videos on career guidance. This is not legal advice, and I hope this helps. My name is Olurotinmi Osha. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.